We're back on Lutherans Alive with David Fenoglietto, CEO of Lutheran Senior Life. David, again, thank you so much for taking the time to come in and sharing with us some of the current availability of care and services for seniors here in Western Pennsylvania. And we were talking just before the break about technology and some of the amazing things that are being developed and are already available for use in homes. And during the break, you were mentioning that it's also fascinating the level of or the kind of environment that seniors are living in their homes, and how that also can dictate or at least influence the kind of care that gets offered going forward. Maybe you could describe some of that. Give us an idea of what kinds of things you're seeing and how you're trying to make those connections.
Technology is a mechanism to help the older adults live actively and well at home. The home environment is changing. The senior living environment has changed tenfold over the last few years. The older adult, as they move from a very large home that they've lived in for many years, are looking for safety, security, and accessibility to their home. So that is up front and foremost in the design. The design also needs to have a social aspect to it, so they're built in neighborhoods so that you can have a household and a neighborhood concept to create the sense of, again, our abundance of life. So there's interaction, there's connectivity both to their neighbors as well as to the external environment. So as we look towards the future for Lutheran Senior Life, we want to build that household and neighborhood for both sociability, for the connectivity to the internal folks, as well as the community at large. And it's absolutely fascinating, the architects and the engineers and designers, how they're building a small community today for older adults. And quite honestly, it's no different than maybe you or I have grown in small neighborhoods where there was the grocery store and the church and the neighbors. Today what we're doing is we're building that in communities so that the seniors have access to all those amenities that have traditionally been known as they've grown up through their adult life.
So as you're describing them, are we talking about, for example, like condominiums and apartment communities, as well as patio homes and the kind of a neighborhood that has maybe a local senior center or a community center or a swim pool, gym room, exercise? All those kinds of things are self-contained in the local, as you say, neighborhood.
That is correct. You're absolutely right. The design of the individual's home is oftentimes the safety and security at the forefront, and it is a patio home and or apartment. But it also is inside of that home a very accessible shower, which is wheelchair accessible. But quite frankly and honestly, the residents are not looking for that institutional feel. They don't want the accessible shower that has a very low entry point. They want to have the flexibility should they need that shower to be accessible through a wheelchair. What they want to see is, do I have access to the amenities of connectivity to my neighbors, the social aspect, and I want to remain vibrant and healthy in my older years and not to move towards the frailty factor. So the environments that we're building are safe, secure, and accessible, but the environments will have connectivity for health, wellness activities, socialization, and we bridge that with our earlier topic of technology so the individuals can remain at home as long as they can. And they can age in place, and they don't need to move from the patio home or apartment to some other higher level of care, traditionally called a nursing home.
Right. Sounds like a fairly expensive or pricey kind of an initiative to get involved in. But again, if that's what provides that sense of security and that sense of livability, I guess you would say, or I guess you used the word vibrant life. That's really what people are looking for. That's really what they're working to experience as long as they possibly can.
You're absolutely right. It is capital intensive for us to build new communities for older adults. We are literally building new homes for seniors. And as we build a new home for a senior, it is capital intensive. We've invested in our LIFE program, the Living Independence for the Elderly in Butler and Beaver County. And it is a center that in Beaver County, for example, has a physician's office, has a dietary component, rehabilitation, social aspect, and then we have van services. So we have throughout our entire system 25 vans that go into the community for the residents. We bring them to this center, for example, and provide them with that holistic approach, the person-centered care that we want to deliver in the LIFE program. So it's capital intensive whether we're building a patio home. It's capital intensive if we want to build a new adult day center to bring the residents from their home into the center to receive all the amenities that we can deliver in that one site. So we keep our eyes on our overall ministry from the standpoint of financial aspect and hope that we can serve others in that regard.
It really sounds like a cutting-edge kind of an approach to senior care, though, as well. Are there other folks that are taking the same approach? Is this unique to this part of the country, or is it really the wave of the present rather than even the wave of the future?
I think overall senior living providers and colleagues of mine are moving in that regard. We think Lutheran Senior Life, as we begun to trademark the abundant life concept in our overall culture, we're ahead of our colleagues, if you will. But the industry, our professional organizations, are pushing and pulling ourselves so that we can serve older adults in a better way. The old saying where it's no longer your grandfather's Oldsmobile, senior living is no longer what it had been in the past, but very person-centered, very much directed towards abundant life and wellness program.
How well does this fit with the direction in healthcare reform and the medical field as we see it these days? Does that facilitate or does that dovetail fairly well with what you're trying to do?
Well, we think it does, but oftentimes in the political area, we, from a provider standpoint, are very concerned. Health insurance does not provide long-term care. So as health care reform is evolving and as we age, all of us, when we get to a certain age, will no longer have health insurance or long-term care living that's paid for in any large degree. So we are very concerned that as older adults, we won't be covered for our needs in the future. And there's a lot of advocacy that is underway to help ensure that older adults will be covered as they age.
Seems like one of the really ongoing challenges in this field would be to try to psych out what direction government, insurance policies, all those kinds of things are going. It's all such an evolving and a continually changing environment. It's got to be a challenging one to be an administrator.
It is, and as we, as I mentioned, as a nonprofit faith-based, we want to ensure that we serve those in need. Today, for example, the state of Pennsylvania will no longer license any new nursing home beds or have a license for that so that they can support the cost through medical assistance when you run out of the financial assets. As a result, then, the individuals have to pay privately. And as we are moving towards that environment in this country, we as providers are very concerned that our personal assets will be drained for the benefit of a loved one who might need long-term care. Strong advocacy on our part to help ensure that we as persons in society are cared for in our later years.
We're at the point where we have to take another break. We'll be back in just a few seconds and spend some time on our third segment today. We'll be right back.